I know December is usually everyone's favorite time of the year, so we're bringing one of my favorite guests of the year on. So John Fanta, you see him on TV, you hear him doing games. John, thanks so much for hopping on.
Jared, it's always great to be on the Connecticut scoreboard with you, and what you've built is really special. And so,
Thanks.
congratulations on all of that, and to all of the fans and listeners out there. Happy holidays, everybody, and happy almost Big East Conference play for the Huskies.
I know it's crazy to think that we're already at conference time here. It feels like things just tipped off against New Haven, which I mean, I guess it was only 4 or 5 weeks ago, but it feels a lot longer. As you look at this UConn team, John, I know you've done some of the games, you've been watching from afar. Just give me kind of your overall thoughts on where this team stands as you look at them heading into Big East play.
Well, I think they can win the national championship, and I really believe that they are a top three team in college basketball when they play to the level that they're capable of, and even when they don't. What's interesting about this team is that both against Illinois and then against Florida, I thought there were spurts in the game where they really didn't play all that well, and it shows the amazing quality of this team that they can battle through things. And they can do it this early, Jared. That's a really promising trait. And you just know that Dan Hurley is going to continue to get this group to grow. I think it cannot be overstated. The fact that Braylon Mullins was coming off a significant leg injury, it was not some minor thing. He was really banged up. And then you couple that with Eric Ryba, who's a freshman big, and we all know what Donovan Clingan looked like the first couple weeks of his college career, and it was just kind of like he was trying to get a feel for everything, and that's okay. But Ryba, you can't get a feel for it when you're at Allen Fieldhouse, and he was the KenPom MVP of that game.
Yeah.
So it's incredible what these freshmen have come in on a really talented, experienced roster elsewhere and been able to do. I think they nailed it in the transfer portal. Malachi Smith, to me, I mean, what a revelation he's been in these latest Garden games. It just shows you that he lives for the bright lights. And
Yeah.
Silas Demery, if they don't get Demery, they're not who they are defensively. He really sets the tone for them. He's the head of the snake defensively, and Dan Hurley has talked about his ability to guard other teams' best perimeter players. That's a really valuable. You had to bring that guy in. They didn't have that last year. They did not have point guard play. Now they have two of them. So you supplement that with Solo Ball and Alex Caravan, and then a little dosage of Jalen Stewart, and when Jaden Ross makes a play or something, they're deep. They're really deep and balanced, and they're not over relying on one piece or part. And I didn't even mention Terrace Reed, who still has his
Right.
best basketball in front of him. So I love this team. I think that what I will say is the top of the sport is as strong as it's ever been.
Mhm.
Michigan is ridiculous. Iowa State is too. And we could continue with other teams that come to mind. But, Duke looks the part with Cam Boozer, and now with a backcourt that continues to get better. And, I would take UConn over Gonzaga, but they certainly look good. And I haven't even mentioned Purdue, who everyone thought was going to be the number one team in the country. And I haven't even mentioned Arizona. Arizona beat UConn. UConn was shorthanded, but Arizona looked very good in that game. And Koa Pete's a stud.
Yeah.
So the top of the country is a little bit different. But what do I think of this team? I think they can win it all.
I think one thing that's been impressive to me about this UConn team is how good they've been with key pieces missing. I mean, Braylon Mullins and Terrace Reed were penciled into Dan Hurley's starting lineup at the start of the season here. You're down both those guys for a lot of these games, and to see what they've been able to do. I mean, had they been able to steal that game against Arizona, which I mean was very much in their grasp, but I don't know what you think, but there's a chance you're talking about an undefeated UConn team right here. And I think what you mentioned there about this team can only get better from here, I think is big as you think about what's to come in Big East play.
Well, you know what they're thinking about. They're now thinking about, all right, last year St. John's matched our record of
Yeah.
18-2. How do we go 20-0?
Yeah.
And look, it's hard to do that. And I'm not saying that that's just necessarily going to happen, but KenPom has them winning all their conference games, so it's not impossible.
Yeah.
The mathematics say, now it's basketball, anything can happen. But
Right.
the win at Allen Fieldhouse to me is such a huge moment. And it's not because Kansas is a top 10 team. It's because of how hard it is to win there. And this team grinded that game out. They slowed Kansas's offense down for the last 10 minutes of that game. They held them to 11 points in the last 10 minutes of that game. It was really just great defense. And then on the offensive side of the ball, look, was it always pretty? No. Think about this, Jared. They were outdone at the free throw line by 13 free throw attempts in that game. And they won the game 61-56.
Yep.
So now Kansas made double the free throws that UConn did, close to that, 15-8. But I just think you look back at that win and the confidence that has to build with Mullins and with Ryba and with even Solo Ball and Caravan. Caravan had a stretch in that game where he really took over the game. And I think we're seeing that now more so than even last year, where Alex is he's even more comfortable being in that role of, all right, I got to do something here. And I just think he knows. And I think when you've been through some of the tough times that he went through at times last year, then it builds you for what's going on this year. And that to me was, you're right. I mean, this team could be undefeated. If they had Terrace Reed against Arizona, they are an undefeated Huskies team.
Yeah. This non-conference schedule that Dan put together was a gauntlet, and everyone was really excited about what these matchups looked like. I think one thing that I think, outside of getting the wins themselves, these wins are really going to age well on a resume as you look come March. Is there one of those non-conference wins? I don't know if it's because it's at Kansas, but I mean, to me, I'm going to say the Florida win, I think, ages really well, because I think that Florida team's really good, despite what the record says, and I think they're going to do really well in the SEC. Is there one of these non-conference wins that sticks out to you that you think come March you're going to be like, that's a really, really good win on your resume?
Yeah, I think that Florida and Illinois, BYU would be there, Jared, but I think they're going to take some lumps in the Big 12. The Big 12 looks to be very, very good. I mean, you think about that conference right now, and yeah, you've got Iowa State, but you've got Houston in the mix there. Kansas is always tough at home. Texas Tech is very difficult to beat. So, I mean, that league, there's some questions after those teams. But maybe that ages well. I will say this. I'm going to vote Illinois.
Okay.
Just to be a little different. Jared, I think that they are a team that if I was to buy a team in terms of upside, they would be one of my top purchases, because they didn't show it in the first half against UConn. They got popped in the mouth.
Yeah.
Then if you remember that game in the second half, they started to put some
they
better
made a
basketball.
run.
They made a run. Keaton Wagler is a stud, and you combine him with Kylan Boswell, and then you look at the other talent that they've got. They've got both Ivisic brothers, Tomislav and Zavonimir, who just get it done for them on the interior. And they've got David Mirkovic, who is this versatile Alperen Şengün type, mini type of college player who can back you down, but then can shoot the three. And I love their makeup. And I think they're going to win a lot of Big Ten games with that makeup. I think they can beat Purdue. I think they can. I think they can compete better than others with Michigan. Michigan, at some point, the ball's not going to go through the net, and their post players are going to have a more difficult night in the Big Ten. Yeah. And I want to see what happens. We all know, they're not going to continue to beat people by 30.
No,
it's just not possible. You think it might be. I mean, with some UConn teams in March, it's been possible, but there's just a game. You're going to have a game where you probably blink, probably on the road. And then how do they respond from that? The season's a marathon. But I think with the Ivisic brothers, those two guys make Illinois potent in the front court, and Wagler and Boswell are playing with each other. So to me, that win could age very, very well. Florida should age tremendously. You're right. If Xavier and Lee and Boogie Flang can find a mesh. Sometimes you say for 3 months, they've got it. They've got it. And then it's like, well, where is it? When's it going to click? It hasn't clicked yet, and they're 9 games in. They should have a very strong record. But I think if you look at the metrics here, Illinois is 9th in KenPom. All right, in the net, they are 12th.
Mm-hmm.
And when you play Purdue, Michigan State, think about this in the Big Ten. This is where the Big Ten is different than other leagues right now, because they have Michigan 1, Purdue 9, Michigan State 10, Illinois 12.
Yeah.
They have
The,
four of the top 12 teams in those ratings. So in other words, there's a lot of games that Illinois is going to play where their net is unaffected. They're going to stay in like the top 10 to 12, if not go higher.
no, it's a good point, and I like you picked one different than I picked, so it adds
Yeah,
for
it
some
differentiates a little
yeah,
bit.
adds for some fun there. Uh, as you think headed into Big East play, obviously not overlooking the game UConn's got against Sean Miller in Texas on Friday, but as you think about this UConn team getting ready for Big East play, what's your biggest question mark on this team heading into it? And I'm not going to let you say health because I think that's an easy out.
Yeah, no.
What they've been dealing with, but from a basketball perspective, what are you kind of I don't want to say concerned, but your biggest question mark on this team heading into Big East play.
Killer instinct, putting teams away. When they go up by 12 or 15, do they win by 18 or do they win by 3?
Right.
You
That's a good
know,
point.
that to me would be the biggest thing. Now the Big East is going to offer lesser chances than their non-conference slate offered in terms of challenges on paper. I know that when we can get to the league and the forecast of the league, because I have some thoughts on that, but I think that yeah, can this team can Solo Ball and Alex Caravan stay very consistent in the process, shot making, everything that happens
Mhm.
there? Um, and can the point guard play continue to just get better?
Mhm.
Is there any? Sometimes when teams have film, they then say, you know what? We're going to try to zone in on taking away Demery and Smith.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not saying that happens because I don't know how you really take them away. But if I was a coach scouting for UConn, and I am not a coach, but if I was one, I would say, well, they didn't have point guard play last year. Not great point. They didn't have great point guard play. They just didn't. And it ultimately led to their downfall, albeit they gave Florida a hell of a game. So if I say, all right, like this is like someone saying, well, we're going to take away Tristan Newton. Well, that just didn't happen by the end
Right.
of it. By the end of it. But Demery and Smith there's still games where one of them has not as good of a game as the other. Is
Mhm.
there a night, Jared, where a team says defensively, we're gonna make sure that those guys don't make plays for others? And you know what? If they're left on an island to shoot the ball, we'll live with it. We just don't want them in transition. Like I
Yeah.
think that would be the question I would have. And then if Demery and Smith handle that properly, well then okay. I think that's why I started with Caravan and Ball because right now Ball and Caravan have been so good, and there's nothing that says that they won't be. But you combine Mullins, like the biggest thing with UConn is because they can put Demery or Smith, Mullins, and Ball on the floor with Caravan.
Yeah. I mean,
It forces the other team's four-man to guard Caravan on the perimeter.
yep.
Nightmare for a team defensively. That is a nightmare for an opponent. You can't do it. You got to hope that they miss some. Like
Hey,
you have to. Yeah,
and then throw in Ryba when he's out there with that lineup where he could space the floor a bit, and now you've got nightmares all over the place.
their offense is the Huskies' offense is a machine. It really is. It would just be. I think what was interesting about the Florida game was Florida's front court really did challenge UConn's bigs, and
It
then as
did,
the
yeah.
game was in the second half, like when Florida caught some momentum, you're sitting there, you're like, all right, like UConn's big men right now are a little bit off kilter. What's going to happen? Well, UConn's guards said, "Screw this. We're the better backcourt. It's a college basketball is a guards game. We're going to win this game." Now UConn's not going to see that type of front court in the Big East. They will see Zuby Ejiofor,
Yep.
and they'll see a couple of other interesting teams and how they play. But like to me, I just think that that would be my question: is point guard play continuing to just blossom and evolve and look the way that it has?
Basketball season's back, and just like our favorite team, Martin Rosals knows the value of tradition, quality, and consistency. Since 1928, Rosals has been Connecticut's go-to for hot dogs, kielbasa, and sausages, made fresh, never frozen, using the same original family recipes that have built a lasting legacy. So before tip-off, make sure your grill lineup is ready. Look for Martin Rosals at your local grocery store or visit their retail store in New Britain to stock up for game day. So let's talk a little bit about the Big East because I was
Do it.
I was I was looking yesterday, and I'm not saying this to take a shot at any other Big East teams, but just from like an actual numbers perspective, UConn
Yeah,
comes into Big East play 4 quad 1 wins. Rest of the
yeah.
Big East combined has 3. Where are you on the panic scale? Because I mean I've seen it on, if you're looking on Twitter, you see all the ranges
Right.
of the spectrum of panic pressing. Where are you kind of when it comes to where the league is right now?
Well, I think that this has been as rough of a start to a season that you could have imagined.
Hmm.
There's a difference though between, and I know Twitter is not wired this way, but there's a big difference between, all right, the sky is falling, the world is ending, and I know UConn fans out there who tweet out time to leave. All right, okay, time to leave. All right, so here's the deal. We all know that if Connecticut were to do something like that, um, what sport they're mainly doing it for. Let's be
Hmm.
honest,
Yeah,
because if you do that, your travel situation and your home game familiarity is just going to change.
very
It
much.
just
Yeah.
very much in the sport of basketball. But I wish Coach Candle the very best in football, and love that the football program has gotten going, and that's great momentum. I think like sometimes people are confused. They're like, well, you're either a football person or a basketball person. Well, Jared, you're a great, like you could be both.
Yeah,
We're talking
exactly.
about we're talking about everything honestly here. The league has not been good enough to this point, and obviously they're running out of non-conference opportunities. I still think that there's a couple of teams that I'm curious to see if they can figure some things out and blossom,
Build a bit.
because
Yeah.
the sport has shown us over the years that if you make a definitive claim in on December 11th, don't get me wrong, it's you're now pretty much you're running out of time to get more non-conference results, and that's where you make your bids. But last year, at this time last year, we did think, okay, probably could be a 3-bid league. And
Hmm.
then they show up to Selection Sunday and they got 5. And I know a fan out there is like, well, I want 7. It's 11 teams. It's not 18. It's not 16. If they only get 3 in this year, there's a world like let's just separate the solution is not, all right, UConn leave. Like that's not a rational. The solution to me is, if I'm these teams and I'm these coaches, and there's some good coaches in this
Hmm.
league, really good, as you know, Jared, really good coaches in this
Yep.
league. It's human nature for me to think about in my head of like, all right, like they meet in the off season, they meet during the season. Got to imagine there's like a powwow of some sort of, hey, let's get our crap together. And Dan Hurley is now an elder statesman
Hmm.
in this league, and I'm not, but he's one of them, one of a couple that have real experience. Expansions. The other thing, like when people suggest expansion and stuff, and
Yeah.
they say that the league needs to expand, why?
Yeah. I'm
Why are you
with you on that one.
expanding? Like it's got to be the right team, right fit. They got to make the NCAA tournament year in and year out
Yep.
if I'm going to expand. Like I'm all for it if it makes sense. The Big East can do whatever is best for its schools, its finances, and getting bids to the tournament. Okay, let's look at the league. Creighton, as bad as they've been in a while.
Yep.
But Jared, now what's happening is everyone's like now making a referendum of like that's going to be them every year. Now I don't
Right.
know what the future
No.
holds after Greg McDermott, but Shaka Smart and Marquette have obviously taken heat. It's easy to take. It was easy for us to praise.
Yep.
Maybe it was harder for us to praise when things were going well in this system, and now it's easy to like take shots at it and go and attack it. We all thought very highly of them for trying it. Guess what? It didn't
Didn't
work
work.
for a year. It didn't work for a year. So, okay, those are 2 schools that you could count on, right?
Yep.
So that's where, and then Providence. Providence was a tournament team in this league. They were consistently in the mix. So was Villanova. We'll get back to them in a second. Providence has let the league down. These 3 schools have let the league down this particular year. Now, I'm not saying Somebody could clip this and like just put that in there. I'm not saying that then that becomes every year. That's
We're talking this year, yeah.
We're talking this year. It's been a perfect storm. And it can't be you it can't continue to happen. I know last year looked bleak at certain points, but again, you got five teams into the NCAA tournament. And if this league gets five or six out of its 11,
That's,
then that's solid.
yeah, you take that.
That you take that. You're not going to get eight. It's really not mathematically possible. It's just not when you play 20 times in your league schedule. You got to get 5 to 7 teams in the NCAA tournament.
Mhm.
So it hasn't been good enough to this point. However, I still believe in Villanova, even though they got drubbed at Michigan. I think that 90% of the teams in college basketball would do so.
I was just going to say everyone's getting drugged by Michigan, so you can't take a ton from that one.
Let's see if they recover. They host Pitt. They still play Wisconsin and Milwaukee. Important game for Villanova against a team that they can beat. Like that Wisconsin game's important. If they lose that game, they're going to have to make a lot. They're going to have to make good hay in conference play. They're going to have to beat UConn St. John's one time. They're just going to have to. Now, even with Kyle Neptune, Villanova was able to beat Connecticut last year. Different UConn, but still. And even when UConn's been great, they've gone to Philadelphia and played 1 or 2 point games. I think Seton Hall's legit. Like, I really am buying the Pirates. And I know a lot of people would say, well, you have a degree from there. Yeah, but I'll tell you like it is. Last year, that team set basketball back 50 years. This team, if you watch them play, their defensive activity is outstanding. They found a point guard in Bud Clark. A.J. Staten-McCray lit it up at Samford and now at Miami fell out and now has figured it out. The Pirates are feisty, and Shaheen Holloway appears to have found a group that really matches him. They're 9-1 for a reason. They can make it 10-1 on Saturday against Rutgers. And
that's a big game. That's a big game if you're trying to, I think, see where the Seton Hall team stands. They go out and beat up Rutgers. I think you're
if you want to you went to Kansas State and you really beat them around, but they're not very good. Rutgers, I don't think is very good either.
I'm with you, but
it's a rivalry game.
Yeah.
And so do you go out and and then their conference openers at Providence. So like if you're for real, you got to go and pose your will and win these games.
Yep.
Well, and then elsewhere in the league, like we'll see who else steps up. I think St. John's will ultimately be fine. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of panic in New York and all that. But, will Butler recapture anything? Butler has Providence Saturday. Must-win game for both teams at this stage. Must-win game for both teams. So really critical conference opener there. But things morph. Teams go on runs. I don't know if this league has that. But, I wouldn't pronounce Xavier dead yet. I don't think that they're a tournament team, but I think that they're a curious team to sort of watch. Yeah, that was Trey Carroll looked great in the win over Cincinnati. But yeah, Jared, it's unfortunate that Marquette and Creighton in the same year having a down year, things get amplified as a result.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I think you're taking the rational perspective here.
There's both ways though. Yeah. Like you heard me say, it was as rough of a start as you could have imagined at this point. Like I get it. I tell it like it is. This was not a good enough non-conference season.
No, not a pretty start, but we'll see what happens as things go along here. Is there a team outside of St. John's you could see kind of giving UConn run for its money in the conference this year?
I don't think so. I think that they're going to run away with this conference. I think that they're going to potentially go 18-2 in it. And I think the second place team could be like 16-4, 15-5. I just don't think when you look at it, I don't think that there's a team that can pass them by. I haven't seen enough from Seton Hall against quality competition to say that they can really give UConn a run for their money. Now, look, you beat up Rutgers, you beat up on Providence. You beat Villanova before Christmas at Kevin Willard's return. Yeah. Then we will revisit this and say they are actually not just a team that could find a way to make the tournament. Like if they start the season 12-1, Jared, with those types of wins, we then will be saying, well, okay, they're going to make the tournament.
Yeah.
But they're actually good enough to be in the mix in the race. I don't know. College basketball is so wonky from year to year. You can't go from one year to the next. But I just don't think like Villanova to me. I like their team. I think by March, Bryce Lindsey, Caden Lewis, Matt Hodge when he makes some shots, Tyler Perkins too, and Duke Brennan's a really good rebounder. By the end of the season, they're a team that I think we could talk about Big East tournament week and say
They're the
there's a
sleeper. Yeah.
chance here. And I would say this. I think UConn will win the Big East regular season. If I was picking Big East tournament, I'd pick them too because they're far and away the best team. But you and I both know, you get to New York, anything can happen. So what will be interesting to see is which of these teams that has disappointed show up to New York with a chance, a puncher's chance at stealing a bit.
Yeah.
And maybe it's Georgetown because by that point they figured stuff out and KJ Lewis and Iwuchukwu's healthy and Malik Mack's making shots left and right. Like they're the team that I would probably circle and say, Ed, you got talent. Put it together.
Yeah.
Clemson almost beat BYU. You beat Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Put it together. They've been disappointing.
Yeah. No, and it looked like they'd gotten off to a good start, and you started to see some promising signs, and then it seems like it's just kind of come back down a little bit.
Not good enough. So somebody, if there's going to be somebody in this league that will surprise us that hasn't played as well early on. We'll see who it is. There's no definitive answer on that because there's been several teams that you're just scratching your head at a little bit.
Yeah. UConn opens things up with Butler, and I know we haven't talked a ton about Butler, so just give us just kind of a minute here on where you think Butler stands, because it seems like that they've gotten off to a good start, maybe a little bit of a step back the past week or so here, but where are you on them coming into the
well start? The key for UConn in that game is going to be how they defend Butler, because Boise State did a terrific job of getting stops and of being physical with Butler from the jump. They put Butler in the blender, and Boise State's up to 44 in KenPom now for what it's worth. So people are like, oh man, they lost to Boise State. Boise State lost to a non-D1. Like, this wasn't like North Dakota last year when Butler lost to North Dakota. That ended their season.
Yeah.
Butler still has, they still have a chance against Northwestern on a neutral who's decent.
Mm-hmm.
But for Butler, they're better defensively than they've been, Jared. That would be the biggest thing. I mean, last year they were 169th in defensive efficiency. 169th from a Big East team. This year they're 69th. So they've jumped 100. They've jumped 100 spots in how they can guard. Michael Ajayi, the Gonzaga transfer,
I like him.
He was a great ad for them.
Yeah.
He gives them an edge. He gives them a presence that can finish. He's just got really good feel for the game. He understands the moment. So he and Finley Bizjack have both meshed really well. Bizjack, a rare guy, Jared, that's a junior, a rare guy at a non-UConn that stayed. Stayed. 18 points per game, 3 assists per game. Jamie Kaiser has given them a nice burst. He's 6'6". He can guard. He's another guy who makes winning things happen. Transfer from Maryland. They got to get Jalen Jackson healthy.
Yeah.
If Jalen Jackson's not healthy, Bizjack can't do as much. But Johan Traore has been good. Drayton Jones has been they've got better size. I mean, they've honestly not to disparage, but they went from Andre Screen as a big man that's trying to figure things out to like more muscle, more physicality. Mm-hmm. They're a tougher Butler team. So, look, if you don't guard Bizjack and Ajayi, they are going to be in the game like they were last year.
Yeah.
When they went to Connecticut. Now, I have a hard time thinking that UConn will not be ready for the assignment. It's conference opener. Let's go. And if I'm not mistaken, they haven't lost to Butler.
Yeah, no. UConn has never lost to Butler. So knock on wood. Yeah.
They'll be favored by probably 10.
Yeah.
If not 12 in this game. Not that I go off the lines, but I just think that's what they'll be favored around. They should handle business, but Butler is a top half team in this league this year because they got Ajayi, and he's a player. He's a player. He reminds me of Keelan Martin. An old Butler player who's this dynamic wing who just made things happen. And between him and Bizjack, they are going to do some damage at home. They could beat Almost every team in this league at Hinkle Fieldhouse.
That's what
They
I'm
really
thinking.
can. I don't
Yeah.
know about UConn, but look, it's a precious opportunity for Butler, and we'll see how they seize it.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun start to Big East. UConn's got them, then DePaul, and then they go on the road New Year's Eve at Xavier, which
I will
definitely
be there.
definitely I don't want to say scares me, but definitely one that keeps me on my toes a little bit.
I will have the call for that game and cannot wait to
It's going to be
be
a fun one.
at the Cintas Center for Dan Hurley's Rockin' New Year's Eve.
I like that. John, I'll wrap with this one for you. We'll end it on a fun note. If this is the year you want to go out and see UConn on the road, what's the best restaurant on the road in the Big East
Ooh.
that you got to make a stop at?
Well, okay, that's a really good question. So, Milwaukee, Moe's, a place for steaks,
Okay.
terrific. The Calderon Club in Milwaukee as well. Both are very, very good. So that would be Milwaukee. Omaha, as time has gone on, the Jay Gilbert's for me, adjacent to the lobby of the Marriott, it's
Hmm.
just it is a great restaurant. And if you get a room in that Marriott and you could just go downstairs to the Jay Gilbert's, there's some good steakhouses. Spencer's is very good. 801 is very good. Omaha's a fun trip. There's 4 casinos down the way.
Yeah.
There's a
Have you done the
lot happening.
Drover? I did this. I did steak at the Drover
The
one, and I like that a
excellent.
lot.
The Drover is also excellent. The
Yeah.
Drover, I highly recommend the Drover. Yeah, I mean Jay Gilbert's might be a chain, but I'm just telling you right now that one in Omaha is very, very good. But the Drover is excellent. Cincinnati, Montgomery Inn Boathouse. Go to the Boathouse on the river and
Okay.
get some ribs for yourself. Very, very good. If you can't do that, do Jeff Ruby's. Ruby's the Precinct or Ruby's Downtown. Both are great. Indy, no question, St. Elmo's or Harry and Izzy's. They're the same owners. Harry and Izzy's is also very good. The other one that's very good in Indy for lunch is a place called Shapiro's.
Okay.
High level deli that reminds me a little bit of Rhines.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, little bit like that. A little bit
Okay.
like that. That's good. Georgetown, Philomena,
Oh, I love Philomena. Yeah. Can't go wrong.
excellent, excellent. And then Providence, Casarinos, but you can't go wrong in Providence.
Yeah.
Anytime you go there. Newark, I always tell people if you go to Seton Hall, go to Don Pepe in downtown Newark. Is an excellent restaurant. If you like paella, or if you
Ooh,
just like steak chicken, but if you
yeah.
like paella, it's the best paella you'll ever eat. Mark my
Okay.
words.
All right. I like it. I like it.
So there's some restaurant recs across the league.
There we go. See, that's all you need. Now you got to go out there, go do these Big East road trips, everybody. I think it's going to be a fun year for UConn in the Big East. Go enjoy these road games. Go have some fun. So,
Yeah, go have some fun. Go enjoy these road games. It all leads to the Garden. And let's
yeah.
face it, Connecticut's trying to reclaim their Big East tournament title when they get back to the Garden because that's owned by Rick Pitino. And we both know, Jared, the St. John's UConn rivalry. Yes, St. John's hasn't necessarily lived up to expectations. It's still going to be really, really, really
Oh,
good
it's
this year.
yeah. Those are going to be not missed games this year. So,
Can't wait.
I've got those circled. But John, as always, I really appreciate you taking some time to hop on. I know you're super busy. So thanks again for joining us. Enjoy the basketball, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you a lot in Hartford and stores this year. So thanks so much for hopping on.
Jared, thank you. God bless your listeners. Happy holidays, everybody. And good luck to the Huskies.